Welcome to Insatiable, the podcast where we discuss the intersection of food, psychology, and culture.
I don't know if I could quantify how much of a difference this has made for me. It's extended beyond just what I eat, when I eat, how I eat, into getting to know who I am, what I do, why I do it the way I do it. But there's also just inner dialogue that I never had, where it's kind of like this whole conversation that I have with myself now that's really interesting.
I'm your host, Ali Shapiro, an integrated health coach, 32-year and counting cancer survivor, and have radically healed my relationship with food and my body. And for the past 17 years, I've been working with clients individually, in group programs, and in company settings to do the same. Welcome. The information in this podcast should not be considered personal, individual, or medical advice. Hey, Insatiable listeners. Today's episode is a continuation of the conversation we started in episode 282. So go back and listen to that first. But this is where we're continuing to talk with Ginny and Isis about my Why Am I Eating This Now live program. In that last episode, we talked about what's really going on underneath our emotional eating, why it's really important to have a process that doesn't tell you what to do, but teaches you how to better take care of yourself. It was a great conversation, but we had so much good stuff that they shared that we wanted to do this second episode. And this episode has a different focus. What we're really talking about here today is the importance of community. And I really wanted to highlight this because my clients, and Isis and Ginny also said, we probably mostly identify as bad joiners. And so if you identify as a bad joiner, or your knee-jerk reaction is just, groups, community, not my thing, I really want you to pay attention to this, because when we isolate ourselves further and further in our food journey, that actually activates more eating triggers and activates us falling off track more. So we need to come into community, and it has to be the right community. And so we talk about that today. And then the other big thing I want you to pay attention to here is the difference between self-awareness and self-monitoring. And that's because a lot of us self-monitor a lot. Oh, what are they going to think if I order that? Or what are they going to think of what my body looks like in this? And we confuse that with self-awareness. And why am I eating this now is really about the inner work of self-awareness around our emotional eating triggers and how to resolve that. So really pay attention to that part of the conversation. And lastly, we get in more in this conversation into the nuances of weight loss goals, weight loss, Isis's own experience with Ozempic from a health perspective. And I think that's just really important, because if you are considering joining Why Am I Eating This Now, when I've been talking with people, it's like, is it okay if I want to lose weight? And I want to tell you, that's fine if you want to lose weight. I have never been about you can't or can lose weight. Like you should want to lose weight or you shouldn't want to lose weight. I think that's up for you to decide. And my whole premise is that part of why weight loss is so damaging is when we think it is tied to our worth, and we think that thin at any cost is what we want to do. Versus my approach is, how can weight loss actually strengthen your relationship with yourself? How can we do it in a gentle, sustainable, nurturing way? And I think when you hear our conversation, you'll get a better idea of what I mean by that. And so if you're considering joining Why Am I Eating This Now and you want to lose weight, you are welcome. If you don't want to lose weight, or you're trying not to gain weight, you're also welcome. If you want to come to change your relationship with food and weight just isn't part of the equation, you're also welcome. Because ultimately, what you'll discover is this is about belonging. It's not about calories. It's not about being good with food. Consistency with our food is about this belonging piece. So all are welcome. But listen to this conversation, as I think it'll spark some clarity for you, and much needed. As I joke, moderation is the new radical around these kind of body and weight and health conversations. So enjoy today's episode. And again, we are dropping this on Monday, September 9th. If you are interested in Why Am I Eating This Now, come to the free masterclass happening tomorrow, Tuesday, September 10th. 2024 at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And you can sign up for free in the show notes. And it's a free masterclass called Untangle Your Food Triggers, Catch Yourself Before You Fall Off Track. I'm going to take you through a really powerful coaching exercise that will give you self-awareness around your emotional eating triggers. So check that out. And the program itself is open for registration through Monday, September 16th. Okay. I only run this program once a year. It's 12 weeks. It will totally change your relationship to food and, most importantly, for your sustainable results yourself. Okay. So enjoy today's episode. And again, if you want to learn more about Ginny and Isis, listen to episode 282. They're amazing. They're so fun. And on to today's show. One of the things I keep hearing from people who do take my group programs is how life-changing the community can be. And so, Ginny, we'll start with you. How would you describe the community in Why Am I Eating This Now? And specifically, because a lot of online courses are starting to add a community aspect. And if you've been part of other online communities, what do you think makes this community unique?
Well, it's funny because you mentioned, I don't remember if it was before or after you started the actual podcast, that you had just gotten off a call with Tiffany and Jackie, we were all in Truth with Food together. And it was like, oh, I miss them. How are they doing? I hope they're doing really well. The bond is huge. But what I think is really important when it comes to a group dynamic, and what I think you facilitate well, is that it's important not to provide advice. It's important not to be judgmental, so that I'm not going into this expecting so-and-so to have all the answers. I'm expecting so-and-so to just say, yeah, that's tough. And sometimes that's all it takes. And to know that you're not the only one out there who's really not getting this homework, or feels kind of crappy because she ate a whole pizza the night before, or really super psyched for you because it's like, oh my gosh, you're not going to believe this. I would normally have done XYZ, but this time I was able to do ABC, and to have, a group cheering for you is huge. And I don't know that I would have said that under normal circumstances I would have jumped on I really need to share this bandwagon. I'm very close to my sisters. I'm very close to my husband. I have a wonderful stepdaughter. I mean, I have a great family support system, but they're not in this milieu. They're not in this soup with me. And to have these ladies, or ladies or gentlemen, they happen to be all ladies in our group, who really get it, is incredibly supportive, incredibly uplifting. I've been in other situations where there's a group chat. I did some teaching online briefly, and one of the requirements was that you had to post an introduction of post an intro to yourself on the group chat board, and you have to have 2 responses to two posts every week. And it's like, oh, that sucks. I mean, this is just like an obligation. Who the heck cares? Who's reading it? What's the point? Where with the Why Am I Eating This Now community, it is a community. And one of the values that I've taken away from these programs and that I've learned about myself is that a community is important. And it doesn't have to be Why Am I Eating This Now community. It's a political community. I sing with this group community. I really love these kinds of books community. I watch crappy TV community. I mean, whatever it is, that's how you really get to be comfortable in your own skin, by having a non-judgmental support. And that's 100% what the group gave.
I love that you brought up about, I'm not let me tell you all this, because I know that the shame from dieting and failing and my weight made me really isolate myself and I even was like, I'm a bad joiner. And I still am a quote unquote bad joiner, in the sense that I hate dogmatic communities in general, where they're, and though one of the biggest things I hear from people is after Why Am I Eating This Now, or another program, is like, wow, I didn't know what I didn't know about needing this kind of community. And I think, we're all American, and it's like the values around independence and doing it all for yourself. It's like, oh, if I need a community, it's almost like, instead of community is life. So I'm glad that you brought that up because I know a lot of people who join my groups identify with the bad joiner. And so this is a group for bad joiners and people who already get that they need community. What about you, Isis?
Yeah, I would just kind of reiterate everything Jenny just said. I think the key points though that I want to emphasize are your facilitation. And if it weren't for the topics that the community is engaged in, then that is so unique to this program. It's like, I mean, I've been a part of online communities, especially since the pandemic, and also working 100% remote for almost 7 years now. I have a lot of different like channels where I need to communicate with many different people on different levels. But when I'm looking at something that is like soul searching and like really, nutritious on a holistic level, I am absolutely the definition of a bad joiner. I am. I've just been and it's got a lot to do with childhood trauma and a lot of those other things, and having been in group therapy and like knowing myself personally, I would never be a good therapist because I just get so tired of broken records. And the thing though is in these communities though, you don't hear that. You hear genuine curiosity for yourself and for others. And that is what is so unique, is like the homework that you're assigned is just about you. It's how to be curious and mindful and intentional about you and nobody else. And so when you have this community that's going through this with you and kind of like maybe even uncovering things that they weren't ready to uncover, and giving them a safe space to experience what they need to experience to get to the other side. That was also a reason why it felt like a monumental shift for me. It was like hearing my fellow humans suffering on these individual, but yet like very authentic levels, but yet together through this process, uncovering the layers of our each of our little onions, and getting to that core of why am I eating this now, and just like really what is, I am not a robot. Why am I acting like a robot? And admitting these things to other people. And we might commiserate, but then we go right into the work of like, okay, what kind of thinking is this? What is this triggered by? And can I every time go into this mentality? And then admitting, our falters, like, I still opened the fridge and sucked it into my face for 20 minutes and then I walked away in a daze. So it's like admitting this to other people, again, that safe space, but they know what you know, right? Because we're going through this material together. They know that you're studying this type of black and white thinking. They know that you're sitting there going through potential like trauma informed responses. They know these things. You don't have to be completely transparent with them. Like you don't have to sit like you're in a therapy situation, but you can feel safe enough to know that they have your back, and they're not going to judge you. And Allie, you're going to facilitate the situation to calmly, shepherd the group along at the pace that everybody needs to kind of to get through their shit together.
I like that what you brought up. I mean, both of you, I appreciate both of your answers so much. And Isis, when you said, like, we're going to feel this, we're going to be in it, and then we're going to get to work, because I found when I was struggling with food, right? Your friends who love you are like, don't worry about it. You're fine. And I'm like, but I'm in pain. Like I'm going home when you're not with me and I'm binging at night, or I'm waking up and I feel gross in my body. And so it's like people who love you, and if they haven't gone through it, they have no idea. So I think it's about like, again, in this polarization, I see the polarization of like don't feel your feelings at all. Stuff them down. This is a logic problem that is about nutrient dense foods. And then I see the other side of like, I can't hold my feelings, so I can't even work through them. Like, I'm just like, like I want to take space where that isn't true to life, right? Like, I don't want anyone to hurt my feelings. And I think what you described is hopefully what I'm trying to create is like, we need both, but we need to feel our feelings first and then know how to hold them so that we can get out of the pain of eating when we don't want to be in that sense. So you mentioned therapy and it's not a therapy setting, which I love that, Isis. And people have said, this isn't therapeutic, but it's it isn't therapy, but it's therapeutic. How do you, and Ginny, I don't know, have you been to therapy, Ginny?
Oh, yeah. Which decade? Yeah.
I know, right? I'm like, what type of therapy? I did this and this and this in the 30s. Yeah. But, and Isis too, since you were in eating disorder therapy, maybe you can tell us specifically how you think this is different. Because it isn't therapy, but it is therapeutic. So at least that's what people tell me.
Yeah, eating disorder therapy is very intense depending on the level of like inpatient, outpatient. So oftentimes you have a nutritionist, you have your therapist, and you have your PCP, right? And so they're all monitoring your progress. If you're inpatient, it's far more intense. And I've also done EMDR. I've done cognitive behavioral therapy for several years, and I've done hypnotherapy. And now I'm absolutely in love with the game-changing experience of somatic therapy. That's huge for me. But this is not therapy. It is a situation where I think if you've never been in therapy, you may confuse it in that way because it does ask you to do self work, which is therapeutic. But when I think about therapy, I think about a space that is so necessary for me to feel incredibly vulnerable, at my most vulnerable, so that I can share details that may still trigger a response with I have CPTSD. So if I will never feel comfortable in a group setting sharing those things, I know that I can only do that with a licensed medical therapist or clinical social worker, psychologist or psychiatrist. So it is vastly different for me having decades of therapy as well, because while I may have CBT, right, I might just talk to my therapist. At the end of that session, my therapist will go right to the meat of it and be like, you're being very superficial. What's bothering you this week? And it's that jarring moment of being in therapy with a really great person who's like, cut the shit. Let's get right to the meat. You're colluding all of these details and you sound like you're hiding something from me. I don't get that with you, which is good. It's a far more gentle experience of like, here's the material, here's the purpose of the material, here's how I want you to experience the material. Let's talk about it. Let's process it. Now go home, continue your process, see how it applies to your life, and let's bring it back. And that's the therapeutic output of your program. But again, it's a far more learning, a shared learning environment than I would say a therapy session.
I have a phenomenal therapist. I adore her. I think she's wonderful. But your program differs in that there's sort of an educational component. There's definitely a figure out who you are, figure out how who you are defines what you eat, how you relax, et cetera. There's definitely a personal component to it. There's also an education side to it. I mean, there's things you're reading, there's lessons that you're doing, there's research that's being applied. So it's a little broader than an individual therapy session, and it's a little more all-inclusive. I mean, you can't tailor your program to what does Ginny in Virginia need, because I mean, Isis would be bored out of her mind. So that's where therapy is wonderful. And my therapist is great because she's all about me, where this program is, you're giving me tools to learn about me in more of a group setting where I can bounce ideas off of others.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and I appreciate both of you sharing that, because I, even in materials, it's kind of like, if this is like your first personal development rodeo, right? It's probably not for you, because I think also what I got from therapy was the ego sometimes is used in a negative sense, but in Eastern thought, the ego is like, do you feel like you can have impact in the world? Like, do you feel like you have enough of a cohesive ego that you can, live life on, not on your terms, but do you know what I mean? Like, survive in the world. And so I think therapy is really helpful. At least my therapeutic experiences have been really helpful, and like repairing that ego structure and making me feel like, oh, I'm a grown ass adult, I can do this stuff. And I think this work forces you to have enough of an ego structure that you're willing to look at like the stuff that is not in your past, but is in your present, right? Like, life isn't just coming at me. Like, I can make that choice. So, but I think your descriptions are much more practical and helpful. so, so one of the questions I wanted to ask and is, what sort of self-awareness and personal growth have you gained, and why did this matter with your food triggers?
I don't know if I can quantify how much of a difference this has made for me. It's extended beyond just what I eat, when I eat, how I eat, into a real getting to know who I am, what I do, why I do it the way I do it. But there's also this really weird, like, inner dialogue that I never had, where it's kind of like, all right, you've got leftover spaghetti at home, Jenny. Do you want the spaghetti? Do you really want the spaghetti? Or would you want something else? Well, let's see. If you wanted something else, well, I mean, there's like this whole conversation that I have with myself now that's kind of really interesting. There's a health for me isn't a number on a scale. I don't have batteries in my scale. I haven't had batteries in my scale since I started these programs. I don't have any idea what I weigh. I don't look at when the doctors weigh me. I don't look, because it's not about that anymore. It's about yesterday I was just exhausted. I was so tired, and it was then, okay, what did I eat? Is it my food? Well, maybe I need to increase, maybe I needed a little more fat. So we'll try that the next time. Or today, it was going on 11:30, and I often do hot yoga at noon, and I'm like, do I really want to do the hot yoga? And it's like, well, you know what? Your knees have been really bugging you. You've been sitting at a desk all day. Yeah, let's go to yoga. Let's do it. So that to me is health. That to me is fun. Instead of sleeping in, it's maybe we'll go for a walk on the beach. So, to be honest with you, I would never have used the word fun when I came to describe my inner monologue. There's nothing fun about what was going on prior to these classes. It was a whole lot of blame and shame. But now it is definitely, it's open to, it's so cheesy. It's open to dialogue with myself, and I love me. But you know what? I actually, I enjoy the learning, and that's not something that I ever would have had an opportunity to do if I hadn't done this program. I wouldn't have had that connection to me, and I wouldn't have had this revolutionary health isn't just, wearing your size 4 jeans from high school. Health is singing with a choir that I sing with, and getting to spend time with my sisters, and playing with my cats, and being able to say, you know what, tag on it. It's Thursday at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. I just want to sit here and read a book and be okay with it. So that's a whole lot of what has really opened my eyes from this program. It also touched on food too. I mean, like I said, I'm more cognizant of what I'm eating, and I'm definitely trying to be better, but I'm not beating myself up over it. It's not a you did this wrong, you failed again. It's a dialogue. It's a learning experience, and it's great. It's wonderful. It's exciting.
I love that, because I think diet culture, our parents, and Isis, it was your mom, it was my dad. And again, my dad, it wasn't the same situation as with Isis, but so much of what we think is our dialogue is actually culture. And then it's like, that's not me. And so when we get a glimpse of like, how am I really? It's so fun to meet ourselves that way.
Exactly. Meet ourselves. I love that. That's exactly That's exactly the way it feels.
Thank you, Ginny. What about you, Isis? What sort of self-awareness have you gained, and how has that influenced your eating triggers?
Yeah, no, I really like this question because it was definitely a catalyst for me, this experience, because a lot of what Ginny just said is meeting yourself. And before I really thought these thoughts, even after years of therapy, I still wasn't getting to the root of self loathing. Why would I hate myself? What did I do to deserve my own hate? Why am I my least favorite person? Right? What the hell happened in my brain where I am practically smearing shit on every single mirror when I see myself? I hate what I see so badly. What did I do? I didn't do anything. I allowed all of this information to inform and misinform my output, right? So I would say things like, oh, I feel so fat. Like, fat isn't a feeling. Yeah, blah, blah, blah. But the fact is I felt inadequate. I felt unworthy. I felt less than others. And I thought these other things would help me achieve the level of self satisfaction that was always here in my heart the whole freaking time. So, doing this work with this program, like to kind of revisit the whole therapy thing, what it did was it informed me on the direction I wanted to take my therapy much better. Right. I was able to talk about trauma. I was able to talk about my eating disorders, but I wasn't getting to the point of why the hell did this start? Right. Why do I still blame myself for being a victim of something? Who told me that that was okay? How can I change being a victim into being a survivor and then being a thriver? Right. And not just use this language that's very kitschy. One of the key things I recognize in myself now is I don't have to go up to someone and say, hey, I changed, right? I don't have to do that. I don't give a shit. I changed, right? I know in my makeup how much I am so different than who I was 5 years ago because this started that journey and it made me so much more aware of how awesome I am and how much I have to bring to my family, to myself, to the trails when I hike. Like, I am so full of joy when I'm out and about in the world. Like, I interact with that cashier. Genuinely, I hope you're having a really good day. Sorry, I grabbed something that doesn't have a price tag on it. I think it was $3.99. And just like being genuine with people, it's like I want to leave such a much better mark on the world than how it was when I came into it. And I know that starts with me. I'm done saying, oh, I hate myself. Oh, I'm not, good. And I'll be too the fat or I'll be too whatever. That's not true. It's not serving me anymore. It stopped serving me. And this is such an empowering, like, while it uncovers things that we're vulnerable and we're uncomfortable with, that recognition truly empowers us to take the hold of the reins of who we are and be like, yeah, I'm awesome. It's time the world saw me.
Oh, I love that this time the world saw me. Yes. Well, and I think now that we're all like adults, right? And I think once you get over the age of 35, it's like choose your hard, right? And there can be ease. I mean, part of the part of my own journey these past couple of years is like you can trust in ease, not easy, but maybe you don't have to work so hard. You can rest. But you can either not look at this stuff and then continue to kind of fight food and or it comes out in these weird ways, or you can look at it and move through the hard, I think, with the right structure and support. And I think what both of you are making me think of is I had this woman, Andrea Nakayama, on the podcast who is a wonderful practitioner. And she said, my self-care is being self-aware. And I love that because that's what you guys are describing. And what I think is so, I don't know if tragic is the word, but is that a lot of us confuse the self-monitoring of, oh, that person's going to think that I'm eating too much, or that person's going to think I'm rude. And we confuse that self-monitoring with self-awareness. And we go on our whole life thinking we know ourselves when really what we think we know is other people's perception of us. And in this world of like, again, I love a good Enneagram, a good astrology chart. I love all the stuff. But like at the end of the day, what does that look like in my current life and my preferences is definitely, it's a fascinating and fun journey. Okay. So we've touched on weight loss, and I think I do want to touch on the elephant in the room, which is weight loss, right? Because to talk about food in our culture, I think you don't even hear the food, you just hear weight, right? Often. That's where we still are culturally. Now, in Why Am I Eating This Now, some people come in wanting to lose weight, some people don't want to gain weight, and others just want to change their relationship with food, right? And this isn't to fault ourselves with where we are in our process. Did either of you come into Why Am I Eating This Now wanting to lose weight? And now that you've been through the process, is that still a goal? And if so, how do you see the skills you gained in this process being part of a sustainable weight loss process? So, Isis, we'll kick off with you. I think it's your turn.
I did come into this with a weight loss focus, and that is not my focus anymore. Now it's definitely it's a relationship with not only with food, but with learning who I am. So again, I don't have a working scale. I don't know if I've lost weight or not. My clothes still fit, so I haven't gained weight. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to me. That's not my focus now.
Yeah, I think that's though. You saying you haven't gained weight because your clothes still fit. I think we don't take that as, if we're going to put it in a frame, a win enough. Like all the work that you were putting into food and trying to lose weight, it's like we have this assumption that the harder I work, the better the results. And it's like, I haven't been working as hard and I'm getting the same results. Like, what?
Very true. See, this is why you should keep doing your job. Because yes, that's exactly right. I didn't see it that way, but you're right. It's so nice not to be stressing about, well, do I want pizza? Should I eat the third piece of pizza? It's nice to just be like, okay, I don't know. What do I want? Let's think about this. What do I have going on tomorrow? Am I going to the gym? Do I need to have energy in the morning? It's so much more than just, should I eat the bad food? So yeah.
Yeah. And again, it's, I love that you said you did want to lose weight. There's no shame in that, right? And I'm one of the people that I just don't care if people want to or not. And what's not talked about enough in sustainable weight loss is that when you've been yo-yoing, what you really need to do to actually lose weight is to have a period of sustainability where your body's like, I trust that I'm getting enough food. Like you have to reset from all of that. And so we're always just looking at like, is the scale going down that I'm succeeding versus I'm repairing right now. I'm sending a signal of safety to my body that, hey, you've got enough inputs coming in. And people might not want to hear that, but that is part of sustainable weight loss is ending the yo-yoing and having a period where it's just stability and you've got your body thinks you have you. Your body knows that you've got its
Well, and I want to say this because I think it's important for audiences to hear this is many things can be true. Many things can be true, right? We can show up with the idea of wanting to lose weight, and we can also know that we really need to maintain so that we can become healthy, or we need to gain because we have been underserving ourselves. Right? We all of that can be true because we have so many layers to peel and to get to the truth of why are we here. My personal situation with joining at the time was like I was in a quack. Let me describe it like I was in a nebulous cloud. I was in a cloud of just like, I don't know how to see myself. I don't know if this is healthy. I don't know. And I mean, and this is after years of nutrition and education. And I'm a very intelligent person, but I was still able to get to the point where I was like, I got to admit that I don't know anything. And I need to relearn. In German, they actually call it like unlearning your education. And so there's a lot of practical steps that I was able to like witness of myself. Like, okay, I did want to keep losing weight because I got heavy after starving myself, but my body isn't finding homeostasis. So I need support in feeling safe and getting to a homeostatic situation. And that's really what the program provided for me was while I thought the things that I always think, I knew even before joining that I wasn't right? I wasn't in a right space. I wasn't unhealthy, even at the weight that I gained. But I wasn't mentally aware of what was right and what was wrong. And that's why I think it's important because I know a lot of times we hear that today where many things can be true at the same time. And knowing that gives us the grace and the space to enter into something that may be unfamiliar, or we may be like, well, they may not have lost weight, but I'm going to use it to lose weight. Like, yeah, sure, great. Who cares? Great, do it. And it might work for you, and that's fine. The program helped me just, like Ginny also said, have that inner conversation with myself of, yeah, I love pizza. My kids don't even like pizza as much as I like pizza. So like when they're not with me, I'll order like two pizzas from two different places, but I can only eat like one slice from Jets, and then I can only eat one slice from Lowdown up in Lafayette, and then I'll eat it the rest of the weekend because there's two freaking pizzas in my fridge. But I'm also having my spinach smoothie. I'm making sure I'm watching my protein. Otherwise I'm not going to be physically active. I'm going to get sick. So I'm still making informed choices, but I'm also joyous about, like, I love Detroit deep dish. Okay. And if you're telling me that Denver has a good Detroit deep dish, I'm going to call your bluff on that by ordering it and then setting out a review. But yeah, it's so important, to give people that space that you give them with this. Like, it's okay, show up. So what? So you want to lose weight? Are you doing Weight Watchers right now and you want to do Why Am I Eating This Now? Great. There's no judgment. Everything can be true. It's not a one or the other. It's always like, for some people it is, but you talk about black and white thinking. Like, we can be so myopic with ourselves and unforgiving with ourselves that we, like you said, we want to shame ourselves for wanting to lose weight, or we want to shame ourselves for not wanting to lose weight. Like, you just can't win. Who cares?
Especially being a woman. You can't win, you can't lose. So it's like, just got to step out of the game. What sort of results did you get from focusing on satisfying your food noise triggers without food? So addressing your tail triggers, getting to the root of those. What sort of results? Because I love, Ginny, you're like talking about all this stuff. You're like, and it's also about the food, because it is, and it's about that. And as Isis's point, holding the and, it's not either or. It's about the food and so much more.
I will say that this program has not been a question of deprivation, because we have the opportunity to make our own choices. So it's if my choice is to have ice cream after dinner, that's my choice. It's an informed choice. But that informed choice isn't based on, well, I just feel like the ice cream. It's based more on, okay, well, what's gone on in my day? Did I have a deadline that I was really working towards? I work from home as well. I've sat by myself all day. Is it that I really just kind of want to get out and have a little public interaction? So it's not just I'm going to grab that ice cream and I'm going to eat the bejesus out of that ice cream. And I'm not going to stop until I see the bottom of the thing. It's fine. Ice cream, cool, sure, whatever. Why am I looking to this ice cream? Is there something? Maybe I just need to take a nap. Maybe I need to get out of my house and take a walk, go up to the library and be around people. Because for me, going to the library where it's nice and quiet is like the most amazing thing in the world. Maybe that's what it is. So understanding some of those, you mentioned tail triggers, has definitely been able to put eating motivation into perspective. And I was just re-listening to one of your old podcasts where the cookie is not just a cookie, so that the ice cream isn't just, I'm going to bury myself in chocolate chips. It's, okay, you drop the ball at work. How do we work on that so that it doesn't happen again? So it's, once again, turning it back to, it's really a program of learning who you are, what your motivations are, and giving you really, really good concrete, like the tail tool, concrete ways to say, are you tired? Are you anxious? Are you inadequate? Just to give yourself a more informed option, to open up the option C. Well, maybe I want the ice cream, but also maybe I need a nap, or maybe I just need to not go out to dinner with my friends tonight as I planned. I'm just too exhausted. So, yeah, great.
And I'm thinking of someone who hasn't been through this process and they're thinking, Ginny, you're trying to tell me going to the library by yourself is better than eating to the bottom of an ice cream bin? Like, no. I mean, that's what if I hadn't done this work, I'd be like, no, that is not as satisfying.
I like the library, guys. Okay.
Not the flavor of ice cream at home is that good.
But no, all right. Sure, on the surface, but you also know the next day you're kind of going to feel like crap. Your energy level is going to spike, then you're going to crash. You're going to be unpleasant to your husband, which I know now and which I didn't have any perspective for before. And the library is awesome, by the way. I'm just saying.
No, I love the library too. We hang out there a lot. So, but yeah, I think if you haven't been through this, again, we start to think our coping strategies are who we are. So it's like, I love ice cream. And I still love ice cream, but I actually never loved eating it to the point where I felt gross, right? Or to the point that it interfered with my sleep.
Oh, aren't you special? Nice to be you.
I loved it going down. I didn't love the entire effects of it. Well, let's put it that way. Oh, Isis, what about you?
Yeah, and I know food noise is something that I'm hearing a lot about in different health. I read a lot. I read every day. I'm subscribed to a lot of different podcasts, but mostly I love to read actual articles. And I'm hearing about a lot of these new GLP-1 shots, the like Ozempics, they're helping cut out food noise. And I talked, because being pre-diabetic, I was actually on Ozempic 2 years ago before it like became a big thing, so that it would really help get my numbers down. Did I lose weight on it? I lost 10 whole pounds, and I needed to get my cholesterol and I needed to get my A1C, and it did that. And guess what happened when I stopped taking it? I gained the 10 pounds back. And that was the funny thing that my doctor and I talked about. She's like, I know, it's a dirty secret. As soon as you stop taking this, you will gain the weight back, like in days. I'm talking 3 to 5 days. I had my 10 pounds back, and I was like, I don't give a shit. That's great. I didn't take it to lose weight. But, and the side effects were detrimental to my exercise, detrimental to my social life. Like because I have an autoimmune disease that deals with my gastrointestinal, and it's just like, no. I only did it for 6 months, got my numbers in a good place. Now I'm on metformin, and I'm able to like deal with everything in a very healthy way. But the point I'm trying to make is that food noise is like an undercurrent for those of us, especially for me, coming from, starting an eating disorder at age 12. So you have this creeping up as your day, as Ginny pointed out, as your day gets longer. You lose willpower as the day goes on. And it's not willpower, but what it is you lose, your brain and your body are done making decisions. You make thousands of decisions as soon as you wake up. Thousands. Am I going to brush my teeth this way? Yeah. Am I going to use, am I going to yell at my kids to get up now, or am I going to give them an extra 15 minutes? All of those decisions are constantly being made. By the time it's like 3:00 and your circadian rhythm kicking in and you're getting really tired and you're just like, okay, I just need sugar. I got 3 more meetings and then it's dinner time. So yeah, you're just thinking about food because your body actually needs energy. It's literally looking like, okay, either you nap or you replenish. How are you going to do this? I even have it on my calendar every day. I have something called intentional replenishment at 2:30 every day. I get up, I walk away from my computer, I get in the grass in my backyard. I drink a shit ton of water or whatever I need to drink at that moment. No energy drinks, and I don't drink coffee anymore, but it's usually like something that my body can break down quickly, orange juice or tea with honey. And I just breathe and I have that quiet moment and I am replenishing. Like I think about it, my kids and I joke, we call it our social battery. And we see it like, just where is our social battery at? Do we just want to go climb into a cave? And that's okay. Let's go to our caves and let's replenish whatever we need to do. But food noise is no joke, you know, by that 3, 4, 5, and then 7, 8, 9. At the end of the day, I have another thing I call plop and stop, or rather the other way around, stop and plop. And that's me on the couch. Right. Yeah. It's 7:30. I am done. I'm done making decisions. I am done cleaning. I am done cooking. I am done with the dogs. Everybody can just go away. Leave me alone. I'm going to watch Selling the Hamptons. Okay. I'm going to watch. It's such garbage. It's great. But I'm going to watch something. Actually, lately I've been enjoying Fallout. That's been awesome. But I don't sit there and have the pints of ice cream or whatever at my disposal. I'm a lot more intentional now because I'm making that moment in the middle of the day. And I'm always with my, like, I need 3 of these. Colorado, it's a desert here. I have to drink 100 ounces of water a day or I will wither up and float away with the next storm. But it's like when you make all of these, or you have these already staged for yourself ways to be successful, right? How can I be successful today? Right. And it's all these little, and how can I forgive myself for screwing up? Because I'm not perfect. And so even like Ginny also pointed out, like, yeah, I love ice cream. I do too. And I can't really eat it a lot because I can't process it properly. But what do? I will buy pints with my kids, tiny little pints, and we'll intentionally try something brand new. Like we had Earl Grey ice cream and we loved it, but it was just enough because it was rich and weird. And it was like, and it was fun. And it wasn't like I had one of my big ass bowls with the hard shell fudge on top and then all my sprinkles and chocolate chips. And I don't need that. Will I go to Cold Stone if I am dying in my head for something? Yeah, I will. I will. And I will stop at the point where I'm like, if I buy a gotta have it, which is that honk, it's the size of your head, I'll eat. And then I'm putting it away. And I'm like, if I finish it, I finish it tomorrow. If I don't, I don't. And it gets freezer burn and I throw it away. I have to make that financial decision. Is it worth, the $10 for ice cream that I'm probably going to throw away? No, and that's the thing. Like when I go on vacation, do I cheat? No. I know my one thing I love is Coke. I'm going to have Coke on vacation and I'm going to struggle breaking the Coke habit when I come back. But I am absolutely going to break it when I come back because it's so bad for prediabetes. But it's that give and take. Like, did I walk 3 miles every day, every morning? Yeah, because I love it. I'm walking on the Oregon coast. It was a gorgeous vacation. And then did I have soda with my, Dungeness crab at lunch? Oh, yeah, I did, and I had butter to dip the crab in. But it is so much more about intention and mindfulness. And that's the big bridge that I took of like going on a vacation and knowing I love to be healthy and exercise, and I'm probably going to eat foods that are not local, not a part of my routine. How can I still get things that'll keep me, healthy and off the toilet and, having a great time with my kids and still trying like, ooh, they're doing this new thing with crab cake here. And it's not like Maryland crab cake, it's Oregon crab cake. So I got to try that, and I split it with my kids. It's this intention that's so different than like scarcity, right? Like I got to eat this now or I'm never going to eat it again. I'm just going to clear out my pantry. I'm going to eat it all. And then I'll start new tomorrow. It's like, no, there's so much out there in the world. There's so much abundance already out there for us. I don't need all that shit. I just want to try something, and I'm going to be very careful and intentional, and I'm going to pay attention to all my other wins along the way, because again, it has to do with like, I love myself now. I deserve to love myself and to be careful. It's not like I deserve a treat. That's the old me. The new me is like, I deserve self love. This is what it looks like for me. This is what it looks like for my family on vacation. And this is what it looks like for my health.
Well, I love what you're saying, to be intentional and mindful, because I think a lot of times when we are in the scarcity or we don't understand the needs that we need underneath, we think we're being mindful by being like, should I eat this? Should I not? Should I? But it's all coming from, am I going to gain weight or not? Versus like Isis, when you were saying, at 2:30, I need to be replenished, because if not, that tire trigger is going to be there at night. And so I know I need this now to pace my rest. I know at 7:30, oh my God, so many decisions to make every day. Like that is my recharge. And so by learning about that, and then once you start doing that, which you start to identify in the program and learn, then it's like, oh, it really is worth it on vacation, or it is really worth it, because I'm actually enjoying it. And because my system is like, I always use the example of like, if a lake is polluted, like when I was binging, it was just like always feeling like cloudy and disgusted. And it's like, oh, once I got the other needs met, then when I was binging on sugar during scanxiety season, for my cancer scans, it was like, oh, I feel this differently. Like, oh, now that I've had a break from all of this destructive eating, I can sense the difference more. And I think that's what you're saying is by meeting the core needs that everyone will learn why I'm eating this now around these triggers, those can get met when it really isn't about the food. And Dr. Deborah McNamara, who I had on the podcast, when this is coming out, it was about 3 weeks ago, she quoted her mentor, Dr. Gordon Newfield, who said, nothing as addictive as something that almost works. And she's talking about how, right, the need is for belonging to ourselves, knowing what we need. Ginny, I loved how you said like strengthening that connection to self and enjoying ourselves and like liking to be with us, right? Like Isis, you're like, I like myself. I do too. And it's like, we're allowed to say that as women. We think the food is what we need. And so it's almost giving us that sense of attachment and belonging that we're craving, but it can only come from, I know I need to watch Selling Sunset or Selling the Hamptons at 7:30 and not make any decisions. Or Ginny being like, I fucking love a library and I am going to the library. But I mean and so then it starts to be like, oh, I can actually enjoy the whole experience of eating something rather than because I'm getting just enough. I don't feel horrible afterwards. It's not affecting my sleep. All the things that we know. So I appreciate that. Yeah. And I do want to say too, for people who might be on Zepbound, Wegovy, Mounjaro, Ozempic, or the earlier versions of those, this program can also help, when you stop turning to food, all the emotions and the reasons that you turn to it are still there. So this can be worked in conjunction with that because you still have to retire food from the job that it's doing for you. So holding this can still be useful. So thank you both so much for your time. Is there anything else you wanted to add or share that I didn't ask you?
The only thing that I would say is that I hope that we didn't come across as, this is the panacea that's going to fix everything. And it's so easy. You just float through the program and you come out and I'm the greatest thing. It's not. It's work. It's hard work, but it's extremely, extremely rewarding work if you're willing to put the time in and take advantage of the tools and really, really get to the root of who you are. It's extremely rewarding work, but it is work, but worth it, worth every second.
I'm glad you said that. Yeah. And for people listening, I will just tell you that the work, what I loved when Ginny and Isis were like, it just makes sense. As you start to do this work, your own confidence that you can do the work increases because you're restoring this idea that you were broken. As you start to make these connections that have been elusive for years and you see, oh, this is why I'm doing this, it gives you the momentum to do the work because it is work. But hopefully all of us at midlife understand there's the things that are rewarding take work. But I'm glad you said that. And you, Isis, anything that I...
Just completely iterating what you both just said and shared. And I like that you brought up that folks that are taking the GLP-1 medications to help with weight loss, specifically to help with weight loss and not for other medical reasons. I am a proponent of them in how they help with prediabetes and also how they help with, like, honestly, perimenopause. That's why I started taking it, because my numbers, and she knew it was stalling because I was starting perimenopause. And so that's how I started it. But because I had this information, because I went through what I've gone through with why am I eating this now, having the weight come off was one of those moments of like, oh, yay, whatever. And then I did have tiny little voices that would be like, the tiny voices don't go away. I want everyone to know that. Like, we've done all of this work. And again, it can still be true that I am always going to have demons that I've had to make friends with, because that's part of my DNA now. And as opposed to like hating them and thinking I can make them go away, or, whatever mythical opposite of a demon you want to believe in, my angels are going to stomp out my demons. Like, no, no, no. We're all big one dysfunctional family in my head and my heart. And this program really helped me become at ease with that and love that, because I had to love those damn demons that ruined my life for decades. I had to love them and realize they were actually that weird form of protection that you talk about. Like, we think about self-sabotage, but it's actually self-protection. And that was absolutely a game changer for me, was recognizing I was actively protecting myself. I wasn't sabotaging myself. That language totally reversed the self-hating as well. So I also want to mention that whole deprivation thing. I think one of the areas when you come into this thinking about weight loss and coming with that mentality and maybe still having a slightly immature mindset about these things, you may still think that if I do these things, then this will fix that and this will fix these other things. And it's like, it's so much more nuanced. And it's so much less about things like depriving yourself of rewards, or giving yourself a reward because you deprived yourself of something else. It's so different than anything else out there that the culture is selling us. And that's like, it's hard to put it into words, which is why I'm kind of failing right now. I'm stumbling because I'm thinking to myself, like, I wish people could hear the message without having to use the language that we have. But I don't know any other language than what we've got.
It makes me think of, I was listening to this interview with this woman, Amanda Montell. She's like a linguistics professor. And she was saying, it's so interesting in our capitalistic culture that anytime we have a problem, we immediately think like, what can I buy? What can I add to this? And, she was using the example of like, if I'm in a relationship and I'm like, oh, we're fighting. The thought is like, what vacation can we go on to make this better, instead of, stripping to what's essential? And I think that this process is like that. Rather than thinking you have to go buy a sauna or you have to go buy 10 supplements that are going to quote unquote fix the issue or optimize. Everyone's trying to optimize when we're not even doing the foundational things. It's stripping away of like, let's get to what is this and why is it self-protective and makes sense? And I think what you made me think of, Isis, is like how just that language and really understanding that for yourself can unburden years of shame. And we can't change when we're in shame. We just feel too fragile. We feel too scared of doing it wrong, too scared of not being right. So thank you for reiterating that. Well, thank you both so much. I adore both of you. I appreciate your time. And this is really going to help people and get people who are ready, I think, hopefully, to see if this is the time for them. So thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you sharing both your stories. And I always say, like, once I meet my clients, I just like fall in love with your stories. So I can't wait to hear where they go next.
Cool. Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks, Allie. It was so good to see you, and thank you for including me.
Of course, of course. I am sure you got a lot out of today's episode. And if you think Isis and Ginny are great and you want to work through your emotional eating in a community with like-minded women like them, come consider Why Am I Eating This Now? Again, I run it once a year live. It's 12 weeks. It will change your relationship with food, with yourself, so you can actually trust. You don't need more people telling you what to do, that you can actually, with the right self-awareness, trust yourself. Okay. And if you want a free sample and really experience what it's like to be in community with people who are working on these issues in a way that isn't just like, hey, just ignore them. You're beautiful no matter what. Yes, great. And you may still be in pain around your food. Okay. But you also don't want to do diet culture about all this restriction and control and perfectionism. That's not what this is about either. But don't believe me, really come see for yourself in tomorrow's free masterclass, September 10th, Tuesday from 12 to 1:15 Eastern Standard Time. Okay. And you can sign up in the show notes. And if you are listening to this after the free masterclass happened already, know that you can catch a replay of it on the Why Am I Eating This Now program page, which is also linked in the show notes. And that will be available through Monday, September 16th, and then it goes away. So check it out. And for those of you who feel called, and this feels like this all makes so much sense, like we talked about in episode 282, and 3 months from now, I want to have a dramatically different relationship with food, including not feeling like you have to gear up every Monday or every Sunday for a new week of controlling your food. Come join us. It's a good, nourishing time. Thanks for listening. See you on our next episode. I hope you enjoyed today's show. And if you're feeling those back to school vibes to work on your relationship to food and falling off track, I hope you'll join me for my free masterclass this upcoming September 10th. That's a Tuesday. The masterclass is called Untangle Your Food Triggers. Catch yourself before you fall off track. It's going to be good. And it is also a free sneak peek of my upcoming group program, Why Am I Eating This Now?, which opens for registration on September 9th. You can register by clicking the link in the show notes or visit my website at alishapiro.com.